Adam Merlin, president of Merlin Auto Group. We're very famous for saying there's nothing more expensive than a cheap Ferrari. So it's interesting on some of these cars, when you look to invest in them, you really need to know what the average yearly expense to maintain that car is. Because if it's 15% of the value of the car and the car is only going to go up 10% a year, you're still going to be at a losing proposition if your goal is to make money. If your goal is to drive the car and not lose a lot of money, that's better than going and buying a brand new Cadillac Escalade that's going to be worth 20% of what you pay for it in 5 years. When you look at real investable cars, like the Porsche Carrera GT, went from $891,000 on average to 1.375. That's up 54%. Lamborghini Countach. This is one that I kick myself every day. One of my favorite cars, one of the most iconic cars around. We have one here right now. Absolutely unbelievably gorgeous car. I remember you used to be able to buy these cars for $100,000. Then they got expensive. They were $200,000, $250,000. I remember passing up on one for $250,000 because I wanted to pay $240,000. Well, 2021, the average price of these auctions was $292,000. This past year, $442,000. I'm not sure there's a stock in the market that you could have bet on that would have given you a return like that. And certainly that's not nearly as much fun to look at as something like that. 512 TR Ferraris, which we have plenty of, they're up 37% this year. There's some really cool cars, the F40, which is another one I just kick myself for not buying back in the day. I mean, I remember you could buy those cars for $500,000 to $700,000. Now a good example, I mean, this thing is saying an average of 2.2 million, up from 1.6, but that's even low. Like those cars are bringing more money than that. When the market slows, that car's never going back to 700 grand. That car's not going to be below $2 million ever again, ever. I can't say it's going to be worth 12 million. There's a distinct possibility an F40 and F50, those cars that were that limited number, they can have these huge spikes in price. There's some cool stuff in here, like Lexus SC430. You know, it doesn't just have to be Ferraris and Lamborghinis and cars that are worth 300, 400, 500 grand, $1 million. It doesn't have to be that. Here's one I don't understand, but I'm not a Tesla fan. The Tesla Roadster, those cars have gone up. People love them. I don't know why. If they get the same support for those that they give their mass market cars, you're going to be broken down all the time. And hence why their stock price is also in the toilet, is they're having some trouble, but people like that Lotus with an electric motor in it and obviously are chasing after a piece of history. One of the least revered Ferraris ever, the 348, those cars were up 24% last year. Now that's an undesirable Ferrari. You could buy one of those things at one point for 30 grand. Now it'd be hard to find one for under $100,000. I'd be able to buy a car like that, and for it to go up 25% over the course of a year is pretty nice. The challenge is you could buy one for 40 grand and spend more than 25% of the 40 grand, which would be 10 grand, to keep it running. So that appreciation doesn't always offset the carrying costs, and that's where it becomes challenging to know what to invest in and what not to invest in, because it's not always the purchase price. All things that I think are very interesting.